The Hunger Games series, written by Suzanne Collins and directed by Gary Ross and Francis Lawrence, is a staple of young adult fiction. Its exploration of the fictional world of the totalitarian military Panem bears close resemblance to ours. Political films address unequal access to and distribution of material and cultural resources, and the hierarchies of legitimacy and status according to those differentials. The Hunger Games hinges almost entirely on this concept of inequality and criticism of hierarchy, supporting its claim as a political work. This is why one uses an activist lens to evaluate its themes and their impact. The franchise's success means that its messaging has reached millions, making it essential to explore. Suzanne Collins' inspiration laid in ancient Greece and Rome. First through the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur, where children were sent to be sacrificed as retribution, and then the Roman gladiator games. Games she stated needed an all-powerful government and popular entertainment. Drawing this to a contemporary context, Collins' channel surfing spliced footage from the Iraq War and reality TV in an unsettling way. Worried about the desensitization a consumer capitalist world has grown to seeing real trauma, she formulated the Hunger Games. Anti-capitalist messaging as its own form of activism is most apparent in Panem's structure. While we are not given huge detailed insight, it is America in the future, showing the progression of the existing capitalism of the nation. The capitalist idea that if you work hard enough you will be successful has failed. The people of the districts work their entire lives and are still starving. Meanwhile, the capital wants for nothing, enjoying a pleasant life powered by the labour of the districts. The rich get richer, and poor get poorer. Those in the capital are reminiscent of the uber-wealthy in our world. They set trends, artificially modify their bodies in pursuit of fashion, spend excessively, and do so in a state removed from the real world, having no regard for the environment or people suffering because of the structures upholding their lavish lifestyle. This consumer capitalism is depicted throughout the series, for example when Katniss and Peeta attend a capital gathering.
For when you're full. It makes you sick, so you can go on eating.
How else could you taste everything?
Growing up watching people starve, Katniss being close to death herself, this removed, wasteful act is sickening. The Hunger Games also criticises the sensationalism of the games themselves, and by extension the entire capitalist system of Panem. The way the districts are forced to watch the games in a reality show format displays the twisted exercise of power by the capital, as planned in the prequel Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This has strong links to filmmaker and activist Godard's thinking on capitalism, as he was vehemently against the way film was shaped by capitalist ideology and financing. While he may not have approved the way that the Hunger Games found themselves success in mainstream media culture, the themes of the works seem to hold resonance with his ideas, showing the danger of consumer capitalist filmmaking to the extreme. The next major element of film activism the Hunger Games exhibits is its post-colonial theme, specifically exploitation colonialism. The relationship between capitalism and colonization is strong, both ultimately hinging on unfair power structures. Edward Said's definition states, colonialism, which is almost always a consequence of imperialism, is the implanting of settlements on distant territory. While the capital settlement and domination of the district's people was not distant, their behaviour and power have stark similarities with the concept. Memmi's criteria for colonizer requires privilege, profit, and usurpation. The capital falls under this definition with their clear privilege, wealth from the districts, and theft and organisation of people against their will. Therefore, the structure of Panem, first understood as capitalist, may also be read as a primarily colonial one. The way districts provide important resources to the capital can be related to the way that many colonised or formerly colonised nations in our world contribute to powering the nations that colonise them. Ashcroft, Gareth, and Tiffin's analysis on post-colonial studies supports this connection between colonised and coloniser, as they explain that the perception of the colonies as primarily established to provide raw materials for the burgeoning economies of the colonial powers was greatly strengthened and institutionalised. The districts of Panem as colonies is further solidified as there are or were 13, much like the 13 colonies of the US. Collins making the reaping on July 4th also links to our world, and how the country's symbol of freedom was poisoned by its decline. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes helps detail how the capital enforced and institutionalized the division of the districts, forcing people like the Covey, previously nomadic people, into District 12, stripping them of their original identity. The strong juxtaposition between the districts and capital also lends itself to the post-colonial reading. Capital people have a certain look, body modifications, and speak with an accent similar to British.
Actually, be your happier self.
In contrast, the districts have American accent.
I've always volunteer as tribute!
Again linking to the real-world reading of the story. The books also indicate indigenous people inhabit 12. Additionally, District 11 in the Deep South is the agriculture district and is populated by black people, making another clear reference to the real history of America. Including race in a colonialist exploration aids this essential intersectional reading of the story. Hybridity is a difficult amalgamation of colonized and colonizer, and victors are the best example of this. Remaining in the districts, they are separated, given money and celebrity status, but never on the same level as their oppressors. Similar to how colonized cannot become a colonizer, district cannot become capital. This is explored through the character of Sejanus in Ballad. Coming from District 2, he can never fit in and ultimately dies for his values, failing to succeed in hybridity. Similarly, victors Katniss and Peeta, through this mixing in a third space, struggle to remain loyal to their cause. Through victory tours and parties, they are forced to uphold capital messaging. If they deviate from that,
I'm sorry.
The influence of the Hunger Games is huge. Its political activist themes have translated to real-life activism. Despite this, its existence in a consumer capitalist landscape means that some of its marketing, sensationalism, and interpretations fall prey to the very thing it criticizes. For example, the media focus on the love triangle in Our World and the release of a CoverGirl Capital makeup kit ironically mirrors Panem. Fan activism also applies. Inspired, protesters in Thailand and Myanmar use the Mockingjay symbol. The use of this symbol of resistance in real life demonstrates the power of fictional activism. Other examples include the use of the Hanging Tree song in videos about revolution, for example in support of the movement in Iran. Many researchers have continued to investigate the impact of YA fiction on real-life movements. Collins also addressed this, stating, "So much of the experience is dependent on the reader's experience. This is how we end up with masses of commercialized content, but also significant activist movements. Overall, through this exploration of its anti-capitalist, anti-colonialist, and influential nature, one can see how works of fiction dealing with socio-political content, such as The Hunger Games, can be a powerful medium for the exploration of issues in the real world. The series not only provides inspiration and a reflection of reality, but also a warning."
There are much worse games to play.